So now we are going to talk about how the external environment affects the manager. What is environment uncertainty? Environmental uncertainty refers to the extent to which managers have knowledge of and are able to predict change their organization external environment is affected by. I mean, how much managers know about the environment and how the external environment is going to affect the organization. That is what environmental uncertainty is. Uncertainty is actually composed of two major things. Number one is complexity of the environment. Now, as it's understandable with the help of this word, that is complexity. It means the number of components in the organization external environment, how much the competition or how many sources is actually there, outside the organization in their environment. The complexity of the environment we are talking about, it's the number, the components. The second thing is degree of change in environmental components, how dynamic or stable the external environment is. It means dynamic means highly versatile, continuously changing environment, even though it's going to be highly tough. Stable means easygoing environment in which things are not actually changing rapidly. So these are the two dimensions that actually makes environmental uncertainty. So now it depends on the external environment, that how complicated is it and how much impact it's creating on a manager. So we are having here exhibit 7-3 environmental uncertainty matrix, which is explaining the whole concept. We are having 4 cells here: cell number 1, cell number 2, cell number 3 and cell number 4. Cell number 1 is comprised of simple degree of complexity. See, on the y-axis we are having degree of complexity and on the x-axis we are having degree of change. So cell number 1 is composed of simple, the degree of complexity is simple and the degree of change is stable. So cell number 1 suggests that it's a stable and predictable environment, means the competition is not that tough and environment uncertainty is not dynamic. Few components in the environment are there which are affecting the organization. Components are somewhat similar and remain basically the same. It's creating impact obviously in organization, but it's not a rapid impact because things are simple, complexity is not that much and the degree of change is also stable. Minimal need for sophisticated knowledge of components are required because things are under control, manageable. Then if we talk about cell number 2, it is composed of simple complexity. The degree is simple, but the degree of change is dynamic. So here dynamic and unpredictable environment can be seen. Few components are in the environment, but the change is obviously dynamic. Components are somewhat similar but are in continual process of change. Maybe this could be a technological sort of organization that's having continuously a dynamic environment which is creating impact and they have to continuously upgrade themselves. Minimal need for sophisticated knowledge of components. Then if we talk about cell number 3, so it's having complex degree and the degree of change is stable. Stable and predictable environment. Many components are there in the environment, for sure the competition must be tough. Components are not similar to one another and remain basically the same. High need for sophisticated knowledge of components. As I have said that this is this is highly impacting the organization, so it's required that you should be having a knowledge of the components and obviously it's going to create a strong impact, so organization can suffer. So you should be having the knowledge of the components, how sophisticated they are and how you have to deal with them. Similarly, if we talk about cell number 4, so cell number 4 is highly unpredictable environment because it's the degree of complexity is complex and the degree of change is also dynamic. So many components are there in the environment and the change is also dynamic. Continuously there is new change each day. So components are not similar to one another and are in continual process of change. And there is high need for sophisticated knowledge of components. Obviously it cannot be managed if the knowledge is not up to the mark and if managers are not properly sure about things that happening. So it requires high concentration and very high knowledge of things. Okay, so now if we talk about stakeholder relationships, so what does a stakeholder means? All of those forces in the organization environment that are affected by organization decisions and actions. Whatsoever action the organization is taking, and there are certain constituencies that are getting influenced due to those decisions. So that is known as stakeholders. The stakeholders are those forces who are getting affected by the decisions or actions of the organization. So why to manage stakeholder relationships? Why it is necessary? Because it can lead to improved organizational performance. Your organization is based on certain people. Your organization is not solely or merely a thing that's getting operated in the world. It's like that we are interconnected with the people and with the forces around. So we have to make sure that the organization performance remains up to the mark, and it's just going to happen when we are going to take or look after all the stakeholders that are involved. Alright, and then it is the right thing to do given the interdependence of the organization and its external stakeholders. So now, how to manage the relationships of the stakeholder? Number one, we have to identify the organization external stakeholders. We should know that who are getting affected by the decisions that we are taking, who are the stakeholders involved in our decisions. We have to make sure of this first. Second is that we have to determine the particular interest and concerns of the external stakeholders so that we can take care of their interest and concerns, so that we cannot deteriorate, we cannot actually devalue them. So that's why it's very necessary to have an eye on their interest and concerns. The third point is we have to decide how critical each external holder is to the organization. See, there are certain people, there are certain forces who are linked with the organizations, but we have to see the criticality. Which is the external factor or the stakeholder is critical to the organization, so that we can make sure that how we have to prioritize them and we have to take care of them. So that's why criticality is important here. Then we have to determine how to manage each individual external holder relationship. Obviously, when stakeholders are several, so we are having several relationship with other stakeholders. So it depends on how we have to manage each and every stakeholder. So here I am having couple of examples of the stakeholders that could be affecting the organization, or organization affecting those stakeholders. So you can see this double arrow. It means that organization is also affecting the stakeholders, and stakeholders are obviously having the influential power, so they are also affecting the organization. Couple of examples are there for your understanding. So if we discuss few of them, for example, the number one stakeholder, if I discuss here, is the customers. If organization is not taking care of the interest and of the values of customers, so definitely they are going to get affected by the organization, and organization can be in danger if customer is not satisfied. So organization has to anyhow take care of this matter, that their customers should be satisfied with their actions and with the decisions the organization is taking. So if I talk about the communities, we live in societies and we are having several communities. So organization should make sure that they should not ruin the values of the communities. Alright. Then we are having employees. The organizations, the organization is running with the help of the employees, the workforce, the human resource that the organization has. So employee power is a great power. The organization decisions definitely affects the employees and their lives as well. So organizations should again make sure that employees should not be getting affected with its decision, or the organizations should favor the employees' interest and actions as well.